Portland is filled with homeless camps all over the city. It's hard, really, to get a sense of just how widespread this crisis is. So tonight, let's focus on a single camp and the impact it's having on neighbors.
We happen to live right behind it.
On nearby businesses.
People are more afraid to come to the office.
The environment.
Where does all this trash end up? In our sewer drains?
And the people living in the camp itself.
Why here of all places? What is it brings you to this specific location?
But despite all of this, there really isn't a solution to this crisis.
Because we're still gonna come right back anyway.
Here's the story.
Thank you for being with us. I'm Dan Haggerty. Welcome to The Story. Now, I know a lot of people have a lot of big feelings on this topic. Let me know what you're thinking or what you think we should be paying maybe closer attention to when it comes to the different aspects of homelessness and homeless encampments. Email us at thestory@kgw.com. You can find me on Facebook, you can find me on Instagram, or use Twitter in the hashtag #HeyDan. Let's get to it. And we'll start right there with the big story tonight. The homeless crisis in Portland seems to escalate by the day. New encampments are popping up along streets, in parks near schools. Some neighbors are sympathetic, but many have run out of patience, and they want the tent communities gone. So to understand this conflict, investigative reporter Kyle Laboshi zeroed in on one single location to study the impact of an encampment.
This busy stretch along Southeast Powell and 57th is no place to call home. Piles of trash and unknown waste surround the tents and broken vehicles sprawled across a frontage road. This troubled space serves as a vivid example of the nearly 100 homeless encampments spread across the city. These growing tent communities are now part of the fabric of Portland. They surround us, and many neighbors have run out of patience.
It's not just where the camps are, that's being affected. I know that we happen to live right behind it, but it's, our friends and neighbors that live several blocks away, all the way over toward Foster, all the way over toward Division, they're affected too.
To better understand the impact of an encampment, we zeroed in on Southeast Powell and 57th, where over the past 2 years, residents have filed more than 1,000 complaints about illegal camping on the city's website.
You got prostitution, drug selling, someone might get drunk. Yeah, it's pretty sad.
Paul Woods, who lives a block and a half away from the encampment, said it's not unusual for trouble to spill into the neighborhood, including petty crime like vandalism and theft.
I got motion lights all around the place. I put heavy screens on the doors.
It's really deflating.
A few families have decided to sell their homes to get away from the encampment.
It's really hard. We love our neighbors and the neighborhood, and it's been tough. It was bittersweet for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
After 16 years in the Foster Powell neighborhood, Keely Montgomery and her family are packing up and moving to Tigard. She's sympathetic to those living in the encampment, but after repeatedly finding hypodermic needles on the sidewalk, having bikes stolen, and all the stress, Montgomery has had enough.
Our hope is that, these people get help too, and it's not just, it's not just about us, it's about them too.
City and regional crews have cleaned up or completely removed the encampment almost 24 times over the past 2 years, with the price tag totaling just over $18,000. Despite those repeated efforts, piles of trash, old food, and hazardous waste have again become part of the landscape.
Last summer before was the worst.
Neighbors worry about the environmental impact.
And, how much garbage there was. Where do these people take care of their business? In my neighbor's bushes? And where does all this trash end up? In our sewer drains?
And there are concerns about fire. Over the past 2 years, emergency crews have responded to more than 10 reports of fire at the encampment. Additionally, there have been nearly a dozen complaints about abandoned cars or debris in the roadway blocking the right-of-way. Trimet's had issues, and some nearby businesses say their customers just don't feel safe.
I can't say that we're losing business, but people are more afraid to come to the office because they're more afraid. They see this chaos and they're like, why is this such a mess? Oh my goodness.
Across the street on Southeast Powell, the classic denture center is open for business, but the front door is locked.
Right now, door always locked, and I would not open the door. I will go first look.
Southeast Powell and 57th, which is controlled by the Oregon Department of Transportation, hasn't always looked this bad. Images from Google Maps in June 2019 show empty spaces.
Yeah, 57 Powell, yeah.
2 years later, it's become a well-established encampment with a portable toilet set up by the city. When we visited, 8 unhoused people were staying at the encampment, including Aisha Martin. The 41-year-old worked for TriMet before falling on hard times.
And it can happen to anyone. You know, never take life for granted.
Martin, who's been homeless for almost 2 years, has spent the past 2 months sleeping in a tent at Southeast Powell and 57th.
Why here of all places? What does it bring you to this specific location?
It's more open. I wouldn't want to be somewhere where it's secluded, and if something happened, then nobody would know. And also it's pretty small. It's only a few people here that I know pretty well, so. And it's one of the cleanest campsites that I know of.
Eddie Lafferty and his girlfriend parked their van here almost 6 months ago.
Kind of like home. So I used to have a best friend that lived in that house right there when I was younger.
The campsite attracts frequent visitors like Ray Seamster, whose car is overloaded with stuff.
My friends live right here, so that's why I come here a lot.
Instead of shuffling people around from encampment to encampment, the 36-year-old says the real solution is housing.
I mean, I've seen it happen several times. People get kicked out, get green tagged or whatnot, and 3 days later they're back here, you know what I'm saying? The same thing all over again, so.
The city of Portland plans to start clearing more camps and to build 6 managed villages for people experiencing homelessness by the end of this year. In theory, the plan will move people into a safer space, away from neighborhoods and off the street like Southeast Powell and 57th.
I'm too old for this anymore.
Because as it stands now, many homeless are simply being pushed from one spot to the next. There's no real solution. Campsites dot the map. And with every new or growing encampment, the social and economic impact is multiplied. The homeless crisis touches every corner of our community.
Okay, let's talk to Kyla Boshi about this for just a second. Now, we know that there are encampments just like this all over town, but are they just like this? How similar are they in the reports that are made and the type of impact they have on the community?
Well, we certainly heard similar complaints across the entire city. More than 100,000 complaints from citizens about illegal campsites across the city of Portland. And those complaints have the same type of issues: trash, noise, petty crime, that type of thing. What we really want to try and illustrate here is this is just one example. These same type of problems are occurring at every encampment across the city, and shuffling people around from one campsite to the next, it's just not a solution.
How do neighbors react? I think most of the time we see the reaction between the neighbors and then the activists, but I imagine that the neighbor reaction gets a little bit more nuanced for the people and how they respond to these encampments.
Right. Most everybody, certainly they're sympathetic to those living in these encampments, but neighbors are somewhat divided. There are some who are fed up and say, listen, enough is enough. They've got to be moved out of here. The other side of the camp, they say, listen, not so much. We need to help these. These are our neighbors, and they're providing food, water, even dropping off furniture. And that creates some conflict as well, because some neighbors say, listen, that's just not right. You're actually helping to fuel this, creating an even larger problem or a larger encampment. We need consistency in how we deal with these encampments.
Got it. Kyla Boshi, thank you. Now, I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about another camp that we have covered before. I got this email from Doug last night. Hey, Dan, you recently reported on the tent removal at Laurelhurst Park. Now they are back inside the park by the soccer field and basketball court near the playground. We noticed last Thursday there were 3 or 4 tents, and now there are even more. Every day there are more and more. We have stopped taking our granddaughter to the playground because of the vast amount of tents. I thought we would be able to take her since the sweep was completed. Now they are back and not feeling safe to take her. So you may remember about a month ago or so when the city cleared a bunch of campers from Laurelhurst Park. A lot of campers moved to a nearby Sunnyside Elementary School. But the city also cleared them from that place end of last month to get ready for the start of school. Now, Doug was right. Campers have moved back by the park. We went there this morning. We went to check it out. And right now there are tents in that pavilion area where the playground and sports courts are. We didn't see any in the main park. But we know this is a cause of a lot of friction with neighbors. Willamette Week has a story that we think is worth your time. They got their hands on a bunch of emails sent between members of the Laurelhurst Neighborhood Association after the city initially swept that camp in late July. They encouraged each other to stay vigilant against campers moving back in and to report anyone who did to the city. But things escalated at one point. The Neighborhood Association's safety chair claims one of the campers threatened her when she was picking up trash around one of the camps. That camper actually ended up calling 911, saying that person was there harassing them and throwing away their possessions. Police arrived and told the campers to move, which they did. You can read the rest of the story on the Willamette Week website. Now, I think you can probably see a very obvious pattern here. Homeless campers, they get cleared out. Then they come back. And they say that's because they really don't have anywhere else to go. They can go to a shelter, of course, but a lot of them would rather wait to find some type of permanent housing or remain in a tent. Last week, we talked to a man who was getting cleared out of a camp at Lone Fir Cemetery. It's about 10 minutes walk from Laurelhurst Park. Here's what he had to say.
Just camping right now. I was on a housing list when the COVID thing hit, so I'm kind of just on hold, I think, on that. I'm not exactly sure where they are. I got to check in and see now where they're at. But just kind of camping out and trying to hold it together until I get another apartment. I heard that they're trying to come up with a big plan and an area for homeless people, and if they have, you know, type of stuff like showers, you know, and maybe a food court or something like that, where people can kind of keep their basic necessities right there organized, I think that'll work. But right now, I think they're just kind of bouncing people around. A lot of people don't clean up, so I think the city, in some instances, have to move people so they can actually clean up behind them, you know, and you know, not have these giant garbage collections around town. I want to be out of here today. Just get it back down to a basic, what I need kind of camp and comfortable. Find a place where I can talk to just the surrounding neighbors and make sure they're at least comfortable with it.
Now, I know that a lot of you have a lot of opinions about our homeless crisis, as well as questions about what's being done to solve it, to help these people and help these communities. And I want to hear them. I want to hear your ideas or your thoughts on how we're covering all of this. Email us at thestory@kgw.com or send me a message on Facebook, or as always, use that hashtag HeyDan on Twitter.
I know a lot of us still have election fatigue after last year, but it's getting to be that time again. Some people are starting to throw their name in the hat for Oregon's next governor, and it's expected to be a pretty crowded field.
There's a lot riding on this 2022 election, I think, in ways that are hard to fathom even right at this point.
When the story continues.
And we're back. I hope you enjoyed the commercials. I'm Dan Haggerty. This is The Story. As always, we go through your questions and comments during the break. I always address a few at the end of the show, so please keep them coming. Use that hashtag HeyDan or send us emails at thestory@kgw.com. I also want to remind everybody about our Hey Help campaign. This week, we are asking you to consider donating to Milk Crate Kitchen. They're doing great work providing families in need with free meals, and a lot of families need that sort of help right now. It was started by a Portland chef who lost his job during the pandemic, so you know it's good food. If you want to help them out, they could use it. Hold up the camera on your phone to the QR code you see on your screen. It'll give you a link to a donation page. You can also go to kgw.com/heyhelp. Now, in a move that surprised no one, Oregon House Speaker Tina Kotek has decided, in fact, to go ahead and run for governor. Now, Kate Brown can't rerun after this term because of term limits, so the governor's office will be wide open. And of course, there's been a lot of interest from a lot of people, but Kotek is certainly the most high-profile candidate to commit so far. She's been a political figure in Oregon for almost 20 years. She's been the Speaker of the House since 2013. She has a lot of influence in Salem and has for many, many years. But that doesn't make her a shoo-in for governor. Let me explain. Or rather, let me allow our political analyst, Len Bergstein, to explain better than I could. I was talking to Len Bergstein earlier today about this, and he brought up an interesting point that I hadn't considered.
She's clearly the most dominant one of the most dominant political personalities inside the Capitol. However, it's been a history of Oregon politics that a person who may be very, very talented, well-known, and effective inside the four walls of the Capitol may not do so well outside. And Tina has, for all of her talents, has yet to run statewide, have demonstrated that she's really effective at retail politics at a level. I mean, other people have won statewide races. Tobias Reed has won a statewide race. Ellen Rosenblum have won statewide races amongst Democrats and others.
Tobias Reed is the state treasurer. Ellen Rosenblum is the attorney general, and both have been mentioned as possible candidates, but you'll notice neither of them are on this list that's taking up the entire screen. These are the people who have already confirmed that they are in fact going to run for governor, and as you can see, it's already become a crowded field. So far, most are Republicans, a few Democrats, but we will see more. I guarantee you the font is either going to have to get smaller or we're going to have to use a second screen. I'm not going to read them all. You can hit pause if you want to look more closely. Now, while many of those names, if you did pause or you did have a chance to look, may not look all that familiar, I wouldn't count anybody out. As we have seen in unconventional times like the ones we're living in right now, sometimes an unconventional candidate or an unknown candidate can really make some noise. The typical issues that could possibly sideline a campaign will likely pale in comparison to the big issues of the day, namely COVID.
And they're just people who are very concerned about their own lives in ways that we've never had before. I mean, there are issues like COVID and the way it impacts people's lives that makes politics even more, I think, important. People really want to know that politicians care about them, their lives, and that they somehow are making a compelling case, a narrative, if you will, that connects them with where voters are.
So what's important in your life? We're going to really want to lay into this issue, of course. This is going to be a very big race. A lot of things on the line here, and we want to know what you want to see in a future governor. We want to start this coverage now. So please let us know. Hashtag HeyDan. Also, we'll keep a close eye on this growing list of candidates for you. Let's count some vaccines, shall we? So right now, we have about 2.7 There we go. Million Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose. That's about 64%, a little bit more than 64% of the state's entire population. That includes everyone, even kids under 12 who can't get the vaccine yet. In Washington, more than 5.17 million people have gotten at least their first dose, which works out to be 68% of the state's entire population, including kids. Vaccinations, I can say, are rising in both states, but you can see we still have a long way to go. Now, I know I sound like a broken record here, but it is important that I say it again and again and again. Doctors are telling us low vaccination rates in many areas. That's the thing that's driving the surge. That's the thing that's filling our hospitals with mostly unvaccinated COVID patients. Hospitals in Southern Oregon are getting hit really hard right now. I want to bring in Pat Doris. He's been following the situation at Asante Three Rivers Medical Center in Grants Pass. What can you tell us about what's happening there?
Well, they really are being overwhelmed. It's a hospital that's licensed for 125 people, and instead they have 146 there right now. And in the ICU, they've got real problems. They've taken rooms that were built for one person, they've put 2 beds in there, and they're trying to make it work. I talked with the VP of nursing there today. Here's what she had to say.
But I have to tell you, there's very little room in between. And we've had some very harrowing things happen where a patient goes into cardiac arrest that's in a double room, and there is another patient literally almost they could reach out and touch the patient. Their beds are so close, and the team is needing to do CPR. I mean, it's very, very difficult.
Amazing the steps they're having to take. I want to get to this question that we got, Pat, from Celeste. She said, yes, hospitals are full, but have we talked about the fact that Oregon has the lowest hospital beds per capita in the U.S.? I hadn't heard that before. What do you know about that?
It is a good question, and it's bubbled through a few times on the emails, and she's absolutely right. Oregon has something like 1.7 beds per 1,000 people, according to the Kaiser Foundation. Washington State, same situation. South Dakota has the best situation with about 4.8 per 1,000 people. I asked the vice president of nursing for Asante's Medford Hospital about that today.
Oregon does have a very low hospital bed per capita bed count. So, in terms of the entire nation, looking at Oregon as a state, we don't have enough hospital beds for the number of patients we have in our population. So capacity constraints are multifactorial, and they have been going on for a very long time. And so what is different about this is that, for Asante, for example, this morning we have 189 COVID patients. That's 189 patients that weren't in our system beforehand. And so you can imagine the tremendous toll that has taken with such a quick, steep curve upward when we were already capacity constrained.
Yeah, she said it's been chaotic and it's been really rough. Hey, I'm going to be anchoring the show the next couple of nights. I'm really looking forward to that. And I hope you'll send me your questions, especially about all things COVID. I've really been studying that. Got a lot to say.
You'll be on Thursday and Friday hosting the story. Right. Pat, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Keep sending in your questions. Send me a few as well. I'm going to address a couple when we come back after the break and finish the story. All right, let's close things out, first of all, with, whoa, that gigantic QR code that's always trying to sneak up on me at the end of the show. If you go ahead and open up the camera on your phone, aim it at this thing, it'll give you a link that'll pop up. You can click there and it'll give you an opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. And what we do with our newsletters, we send it out once a week, and it kind of compiles everything that we think is maybe most important or most intriguing or most interesting from our show throughout the week. Sometimes it's some of the little gags that we do on the show. Most of the time it's kind of our heavier hitting content. I can guarantee you that Kyle's piece that just ran at the top of the show on homelessness will be one that will go out in our newsletter next week, just to keep people refreshed. I know a lot of people can't really watch every single night, so that gives you a good opportunity to not only see what we maybe did when you weren't able to watch, but give you an opportunity to share some of that with some of your friends if it's something you guys want to talk about, or you just like our show and say, hey, you should check this guy out. Also, we got a couple of things here from Dennis writing in and saying, in regards to the homelessness issue, why are there so many camps now? Why not 20 or 30 years ago? Now, I can't really comment on 20 or 30 years ago. I haven't done the research to back that up, but I do know that I've done a couple of interviews with experts on the topic, and while there are a plethora of things that go into the situation that we're dealing with in the city right now in terms of homelessness and houselessness, the price of affordable housing changing so dramatically over the past couple of decades is one of the key components. That the cost of living in this part of the country became so high so quickly that contributed. And once people were on the street, it was nearly impossible for them to find something to afford to get back off the streets. And you can find a lot of research to show how difficult it is to get your life back on track once somebody finds himself in a situation of houselessness. Also, this is from, they didn't sign it, but they said, lots of talk about the problem to homelessness. What about the solutions to the problem? Well, what can we do to solve the problem? Taxpayers have made some big moves. They've they voted for some big taxes that can help with the houselessness issue, both with affordable housing and attempts to get people mental health and substance abuse health. So that helps. So that's some of the work that's being done right now. But of course, there's always stuff going on. And if you know of something that we should be paying attention to, let us know. Use that hashtag #HeyDan. Marie said, interesting that there are help wanted signs everywhere, job signs, people begging for help. And then we have all of this homelessness. Well, again, you can find a lot of the work that we've done on this show, primarily the reporter Maggie Vespa, who fills in this position and anchors the show so often with the houseless community, and how difficult it is for somebody in that position to become employed. And somebody, Justin, wrote in and said a fundamental problem with houselessness, in his opinion, is that sometimes people find themselves with criminal records who are living on the streets, or they have no physical address, and that makes it extremely difficult to get a job. So there are tons of layers to this very complex problem, but we got so many emails tonight. I know how much everybody cares about it. Even if you're one of the people out there who is angry about it or frustrated or don't really know what the emotion is or who to direct it to, you feel something for the plight of the people who live in our community, and you can see the suffering in the streets if you walk downtown or in pieces like the one Kyle did tonight. So please keep those questions coming. Keep letting us know what you want us to cover. This is your show. I'm just the guy standing on TV. Thanks for being with us tonight. See you back here tomorrow. Pat Doris filling in tomorrow night, Thursday and Friday.